Assalamu alaikum. Greetings and welcome to Muhammad and Friends. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host, Jamil Muhammad, and we are streaming live. We have a very exciting show for you today, centered on health, nutrition. It's going to be exciting, but before I introduce our guests, I want to remind you, as always, to please follow us on our social media platforms. They include Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And go to our YouTube page, click the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever we post a show. Brothers and sisters, I'm so excited about today's show. As I stated, it's about health and nutrition, so timely when you look at the condition of our people in particular. And we have two guests who are returning. They've been here before. I'm pleased to introduce our brother, Dr. Terry Mason, the CEO of Trevention, and also our brother, Tony Williamson of Mother Carr's Farm. How are you, brothers?
Wonderful, wonderful. Just fine.
Thank you for joining us. I know that we've sat down here before, but we pledged to do a series of shows talking about some of the things that we're doing, not only in the community as far as health and wellness, but of course with Mother Carr's Farms, where we have, of course, here with us today some of the fruits and vegetables that were grown in the farm. And so I want to turn it over to you, Dr. Mason, who you've been a guest in this show for over 30 years. And
Yes,
just about everybody in our viewing audience knows you. But for those who may not be familiar, give them a little bit of background about yourself.
Yes, well, thank you very much, brother. And I owe a great deal of gratitude to your father,
Yes,
who occupied that chair both here and downtown for many, many years. And we did many, many shows together. He was an amazing supporter of the kind of work, or we co-supported, I should say. But his vision to create this outlet, this television outlet on a consistent basis, moving just from the locally broadcast cable stations now to international broadcasts by way of the World Wide Web and other things. So I'm immensely grateful to you and for what your father has done. And one of these days I'd like to take the time to walk through. Your father and I got to know each other back when we were both, well, he was a little older than me, but we were still very young, just out of our teens. And now to think about that being around 19 or so at that time when we met in the Nation of Islam, to now about to celebrate my 70th birthday next month. It is really, the time has just gone by. And I'm deeply appreciative to his support for not what he's done with the other guests that have been on this show, but personally for me and all the things from, we started this journey a long, long time ago when he came and we talked about fitness and nutrition, and we started programs in my old office as I practiced for a urologist for about 26 years. And we knew then that nutrition was part of what we needed to do, understanding the role that nutrition played in male erectile dysfunction and heart disease, diabetes, and everything else. So, and he was always there. He was always willing to provide an opportunity and a platform to reach our people, because as a messenger would say, our people die from the lack of knowledge. But I would say, in addition to the lack of knowledge, but then to the inability to properly implement what they learned. So we've got to, that's why it's so important that you have picked this mantle up to continue this magnificent work that your father and the brothers here, Crow, I don't want to minimize that there was one person that sat in the chair, but there were many people behind the scenes. And I want to thank each and every one of them for the work they've done steadily, not just sometimes, but there are brothers here that have been on almost every show I've ever done.
No, you know everyone by name.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we appreciate that. And my father thought very highly of you and always talked about the inspiration that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad had on you both as young men, and how you pursued your endeavor of becoming a doctor, through that time. And it's wonderful to always have you here because you're family to us, brother.
Yeah,
Been
well,
around all the time.
brother, I have to be. It's been here long enough.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Been here
sir.
long enough, and made to always feel that way. I've never not felt like family. I've never felt like I did not belong.
Yes, sir.
So it's wonderful, and I'm grateful that we're still here to talk about what we're going to be talking about today, and to introduce this brother that's sitting next to me, because he is a wonderful, wonderful brother. This is the hardest working man I know.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, and he's not only just working hard. He does it not because of work. He does it because it's a labor of love for him. But don't misunderstand, or the young folks say, don't get it twisted. This labor.
Oh yeah, it's labor. Whenever I've talked to my brother Tony, he's always moving, always doing something. I had the opportunity to go out on the farm and visit and take a tour and see the works that we're doing out there. But brother, go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewing audience.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Williamson, the farm manager of Mother Carr's Farm. This is a project of Vernon Park Church of God, one of Pastor January's vision, of a holistic ministry where, you can eat healthier, and just not, talking about heaven, but trying to make a better life here on earth. And so this is just a slice of the pie, what we're trying to do out here, and we're trying to keep it going. And this is our 9th year, and I've been with it since the start.
Yes, sir. Now it's important to say, because I don't want to diminish your things. You learned these skills. You didn't grow up trained in this endeavor, right?
No, I went to Wilbur Wright College for when Obama got in as president. He started programs around the United States to teach sustainability, and they were real advanced programs. They had already wanted you to either have a master's degree in some type of science before you was able to take this course. So I begged my way into the course. They weren't gonna let me in because they sometimes assume that because you're black, your reading is not up to par, or your math or your science is not there. But once I had told the man that I had, 6 years in the Marine Corps and I had a high security clearance, he said, well, I'm gonna go ahead and just let you in on your word. So, and the blessing was I was doing so good over there because everybody else had already graduated and they was working in their career, making good money. They paid my way all the way through.
Right.
So,
Oh, well, that's excellent. And brother, so I want to go back to you, Dr. Mason, and talk about prevention and the work that you're doing now.
Yes, well, I wore a bunch of hats.
Right.
In private practice for 26 years, and working in the health as the director of I was commissioner of health for the city of Chicago. Then went over to the county and was chief medical officer, and then moved on to the interim chief executive officer, and then moved into the role of chief operating officer for the Cook County Department of Public Health. And so now it's really taking the sum total of those experiences, plus the things that we got to be exposed to and know as we went through all of that, to figure out how do we create something sustainable to help improve the condition of our people. And meeting Tony was fortuitous for me, and to see the kind of work that he was doing and trying to fulfill that vision of Pastor January out. And so what we're talking, even though we talk about Pastor January and we talk about Vernon Park Church of God, this is a community-based, it's actually called a community-sponsored agriculture. And that means, but sponsored means that we have to get people to help us,
Right.
financially and to do the work. And this brother is one of the hardest working men I know. And he's out there not just because, it's not about money or anything like that. This is a labor of love. And what he's doing out there beyond just what you see, but he has young people out there, young people that we're now trying to redirect, because everybody talks about what young people are doing, but what are we doing to help redirect them and show them a different way? We've had on my radio show other young men that have come through that he has mentored and showed them something they can do to help themselves live, that is to eat. And so out there on the farm, and this isn't a garden. I want folks to be real clear. Don't get it, as the young folks say, twisted. This is not a garden. This is a farm.
Yes.
And the idea here is that we need to, and as the messenger often said, we have to be able to feed and clothe and shelter ourselves. And we're further away from that than it was when he was living.
Yes, sir.
So we need to really understand that this is not just a project. This is something that we have to do. How can we be respected as a respectable people on the planet if we can't feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, if we can't and shelter ourselves? Who are we?
Absolutely. Brother Anthony, how did you all meet?
We had Brother Rick Nelson and also Paul Austin. They would always tell me about this Dr. Mason. And you got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. So I had heard about him about 3 years before I had met him. We had already started the farm. And one time I came down to Prince's restaurant, Soul Veg, and they was teaching the class, and I'm following the food because they said you could eat at the class too. So I told my wife, I said, we're going to run down here and we could eat. Trick Turner going by telling we could eat something. And we seen the class, and I met Dr. Mason. And 2 days later, he came out with some of his fellow employees from the county, and they inspected it. Because when you do this, you hear a lot of people that say they're growing food and they're doing something, but we're trying to get this thing to where where it can actually make an impact. We don't knock the the small gardens and stuff, but we want to put some food into the system. We want to start an infrastructure. I had Prince Jamil. He sent a guy out there, Ricky Thompson. He worked with me all summer, and he became very good at this. And then he bought some land, and so now they got 15 acres over there, and they don't have everything that they need. So we're lending technical support over there, and then he's so close. He's only like 3 blocks away. Sometimes bring a tractor over there, till some stuff up for him. So it's just not about our farm. We want to build the infrastructure.
Right.
And of course finally get a food processing plant. And so, where it'd be like, the nation in the early 60s, where you have trucking jobs for transportation, people that grow the food, and then people that prep the food, and of course the value added component to it, where we can get this thing, into Ziploc bags, and you just put it in a pot of boiling water like this kale here, and it's up in 3 minutes, and you put that on your plate, and you have a nutritional meal without having to cook for 3 or 4 hours. And that's the vision.
Let me ask you to talk a little bit more about the science behind farming, because I think sometimes people take it for granted and think just because you have land, that's it. But I know, especially this year, presented some challenges when we had the flooding season out there. But there's work that has to be done in order to cultivate the land to be able to produce.
Well, you're not going to produce this type of food if you don't feed the soil. The whole 40 to 60% of the work is composting the soil. So we compost at a large scale. You could put corn in the ground and don't put nothing on it, and I guarantee it'll be this high. And so when you see the corn that's been, treated with pesticides, herbicides, and things like that, that corn is like 8 feet tall. Ours to get to like 4 to 6 feet tall. But it's really harder growing food like this, because this is not a natural way of growing food. If a corn grew wild in naturally, it would be 1 ear corn here, maybe a few pieces of kale there, and something else would be growing in between. And so that's how food is naturally produced. So when you go into a monoculture type of thing, and I put 6 rows of corn out next to each other, that's going to have to be fed some type of way. So the only closest to the natural way of doing it is to compost, and that starts at the end of the season. As soon as the season's over with, you level down the crops, you let that sit for about a couple of weeks, you till that into the soil, and then you start putting your compost. Now our compost of choice is horse manure, which has to be turned, and once you turn it, if you leave it alone, it takes about 1.5 years to where you can use it, but if you turn it, you can use it in 5 months.
I know that you utilize people, some of the young people and different things. How have, for you, as someone who's doing a lot of the training and recruiting, how has that been for you to present a new way of life or a new task or experience for some of these young people?
Well, what it is for me is dear to my heart. My father, when I was 8 years old, he started using heroin, and eventually we had to get him out the household. And so I grew up basically in a single family home, so I understand some of the, problems that these guys have, and we relate real well. So being able to have these guys up under me and showing them something that they can take and use in a positive way, and just keeping these guys off the streets is really the main focus of why I really do this. Like Dr. Mason said, nobody's getting rich out here,
Right.
doing this. But it's such a blessing when you see a guy that look like he might not be going the right way, and you can redirect him.
Dr. Mason, I'm going to come back to you because, being here, I'm sure you get presented with a lot of things, and you've heard people say things, but take us back to your first impression when you actually went to the farm and actually saw what was out there.
Well, first of all, as you listen to Mr. Williamson, you can hear the sincerity.
Yeah.
You can feel the sincerity in what he's saying. And that translates to what we were doing. Our team went out there, as he mentioned earlier, just to look at them. We were in the public health business at that time, so we had to check things out and make sure everything was what it was supposed to be. And it's a blessing because the natural water sits right out on this farm. And with the resources that we're able to gather, both financial and human resources, and through a tremendous amount of work on Mr. Williamson's part, to just keep this going. And the whole plan was, and nothing is new.
Right.
Everything that we're talking about, everything that we're doing is not new. In fact, the messenger talked a lot about this. We have to, if we're going to be men, we have to feed ourselves, we have to clothe ourselves, and we need to shelter ourselves. And this is how we feed ourselves. And right now, food is the #1 driver of disease in America. Food, not anything else, food. And it's because we have an industrialized food supply where the emphasis is on profit margin, not on the purpose for which food is really designed, and that is to provide us with a series of nutrients for us to do what we need to do. This food takes us back to what the real purpose of food is. We've got such a commercialized situation now, and as you may recall with your father, when we were even doing things in my office where we also had vegan food then. We had a vegan food chef that provided us with the food, and we had exercise and everything put together. So what we're doing here is trying to introduce our people on a consistent basis with the food that gives you life. The stuff here, these colors that you see in these foods, and these different greens and other things that are here, these things are not from dyes that we put in the food. These are the natural colors that are caused by a reaction with the sunlight, the air, and the minerals from the soil. The soil that Mr. Williamson was just talking about when he talked about composting, which is really just recycling. Because the biggest source of the good bacteria that we need, both as humans and other things, is you talk about horse manure. Well, that comes from the interaction of the bacteria in the gut of the horse, so that when that comes out, that bacteria, which is gained from what the horse was eating, gets recycled right back in, and it's full of other things that we need. So this is really, really important, and I think that it's consistent with everything that I've learned growing up. And I've gone out when we had the farms, gone out to Cassopolis, Michigan, where we had the apple orchards when the nation had those things, and I've seen what we can do when we decide to work together. This is not Dr. Mason's farm, it's not Mr. Williamson's farm, it's not even the farm belonging just to Vernon Park Church of God. I think I'm grateful for what Pastor January has permitted us to do and continue to do. And this is not about other people couldn't get involved. I talked to Pastor Meeks and our pastor and his wife also are members of this opportunity and this program. And we just really hope that people would help with doing this. You'll see more of this on my website, a new website that just got put up, and it's really simple. It's www.terrymasonmd.org. So if you remember my name and .org, you get there. You're there, and you'll see more of it.
Had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Pastor January, who was very sincere on his purpose behind it and his vision to better help our community. Let me ask you this for our viewing audience and for my personal knowledge too. When we go into stores, we're conditioned to think organic vegetables, organic fruit. Now, I know this is fresh, but what is the difference between organic and this that you just recently picked out the ground?
Well, we all got to remember that organic was a word that anybody could use 15, 20 years ago. So I could say, you know, we got an organic relationship, and that only means that the relationship happened naturally. So nobody forced Dr. Mason on me. and so they took this term and monetized it. Yes. And so now to be able to get that term, they do some things and some tests to tell you, but it's not really as tight as you really think it is. You'll do better just having a relationship with the person that's growing the food and knowing him personally, and he's telling you what he's doing out there, rather than, you know, buying an apple that come from Venezuela with an organic stamp on it.
Yeah. And let me just say one other thing about that, because now it's not just organic, it's certified organic.
Right.
So you got, in order for it to really be organic, they got to be certified organic. And what that really is supposed to mean is that it's grown up in a certain environment, free of pesticides, free of certain chemicals. But you know, it's you can never prove it. This I don't worry about, because you can go to the farm, you can see, and he's already talked about what we're doing, and we actually have bees out there that naturally pollinate, because the bees are really critical in the farm process. Without the bees, nothing would grow, because you wouldn't be able to pollinate the flowering plants. So all of those things, that whole process is, in my mind, to add to what Mr. Williamson said, part of the organic process, that these things are done, what it really ought to mean, that it's done as close to the way nature would have it done, free of pesticides and other
this
things.
gets to the table, like this kale, I picked that kale this morning. So even if you get this organic or wherever you get it from, you can't go to no store to get food that was picked the same day or the next day. So generally, when the distribution comes, sometimes we have a few things that come to term a little earlier, and we might hold it over a few days, and that would probably be squash or cucumbers. But generally, this stuff is picked one day and passed out the next. And Dr. Mason could testify, the fresher the food, the higher the nutrient level is. I try to tell people, you know, you can see these few holes in this kale. I said, don't even worry about that. Just clean this up and eat this. And if you eat this for about a month straight, you're going to be able to tell the difference in your body.
That's good, you know, and I'm excited. I'm excited partly because being someone who participates in this endeavor, I'm excited about the opportunity, and it aligns, of course, as you said, with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, focusing on food, clothing, and shelter. And by meeting Brother Williamson and Pastor January, understanding the sincerity and that it is a labor of love that not only the members of their church or congregation can participate in, but the greater community as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I think that's important. Brothers and sisters, what I want to do right now is take a quick break. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to have more interesting conversation about Trevention and Mother Carr's farm. We'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We are back continuing our conversation with Dr. Terry Mason and our brother Anthony Williamson. I want to remind you that this is a live call-in show. If you have a question or a comment, you can give us a call at 773-434-6625. Dr. Mason, understanding that at Prevention, you all look at preventative care and talk about the importance of natural, fresh foods like this in the prevention of some of the ailments that plague our community.
Yes, thank you so much. Prevention comes from putting two words together, treatment and prevention. And that's what this does. You know, that's what eating this will do. It will treat and prevent all at the same time. So it will treat the problems. The main problem that we have that causes our disease is a condition known as inflammation. And we know that, and we can measure that. We did a study at Trinity. One of these days I'll bring it so we can show it to you. But we did a study with a small number. We're trying to raise about $1 million now to really do a bigger study, because we don't have enough data on our people, because it's hard to find people willing to finance those kinds of studies, either governmental or what have you. But the point is that what we did was we measured a series of things in the blood before people started, and then we measured some things after. And the things we measured were measures of inflammation. What's inflammation? If I gave you a piece of sandpaper and told you to start scrubbing your hand with that sandpaper, it would irritate this. And that irritation, once you tried to stop it, you would form a scab. Okay? But in the process of forming that scab, sometimes there's a blood, it clots before. When something is irritated, it bleeds, it forms a scab. Sometimes the scab breaks off.
Right.
And when that scab breaks off and goes into an artery that goes up to your brain and blocks it, that's called a stroke. If it's on the heart, we call it a heart attack. If in the legs, we call it peripheral vascular disease. Different names, same disease.
Okay.
And the things that's good about what we have here is that these things that make the squash yellow, that make the greens green, that make the potatoes red, those are chemicals that are called antioxidants.
Right.
And those are the things that would go to help heal this problem in our blood vessels. So what Mr. Williamson, or when Mr. Williamson says this would actually help heal, it actually will. This also, the other thing that is inflammatory is obesity, and diabetes is also an inflammatory caused by the same sort of thing. And the good thing about these foods, and what we found out in the church project, is that the markers for inflammation, the blood chemical that we measured for inflammation in less than 4 weeks, dropped 41% in people who were eating like this. And that's what we did. We just gave people plant-based foods to eat. Now, this is not a diet, okay? And if I can use Prince Asiel's term, this is a live it.
Right.
Okay, we got to get off of diets and move to live it's. Diets are the things that come out of those fast food joints. Diets are those things that are pushed very heavily by the mass market.
Right.
This food is what you eat when you want to be on a live it.
Yes.
So when you want to be on a live it, this is what you got to eat. And this is, and I'm not saying, and it doesn't matter. What the beautiful thing about the plant kingdom is you don't have to choose one thing or the other. You can eat it all.
Right.
You can eat it all. And many of these things have medicinal qualities. The beautiful thing about eating this is not only do you get the benefit of the carotenoids, the flavonoids, and the antioxidants that make up what these colors are, you also get something you never get from eating things that don't look like this, and that is fiber. Fiber is absolutely critical. We talked about it a moment ago. And it helps to provide the environment in our gut to create the right kind of bacteria. And that bacteria creates vitamins, other cofactors, and things of that nature. So when you're eating this other stuff that comes out of most fast food places, or maybe even your fast food kitchen, you're not getting that. And you don't get the things that help nurture the bacteria that you need in your gut to create a healthy gut. And most of us, many of us, suffer from a condition where our stool is too hard to move through. And that's because, one, we don't have enough fiber, and 2, we don't drink enough water. Those 2 things there will help prevent constipation. When you go buy these things from the store, you're either getting an oil-based thing that's supposed to help soften it, or you're getting an irritant that it irritates the gut, forces more water into it, and you can end up with a condition known as diarrhea.
Wow.
So that's what that is. But when you eat this, you won't get that. When you eat this, you're going to get those antioxidants that are going to help heal that scar on the inside. And that's why Caldwell Esselstyn was able to write a book, How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. It's not really heart disease. That's really the wrong term. They call it heart disease because, we call it a heart attack, but it's really not a heart attack. It's really a vascular attack. And what happens, the blood vessels on the heart that have to feed the heart muscle, you think about it. The heart can't take a break for 5 minutes.
Right.
It's got to beat all day, every day in a certain rhythm. When it stops, you stop. So what happens is the foods, the things that come from these things, go to that. If that process is starting, it will help to reverse that problem. And if you eat this, and the beautiful thing about this, the truth is, none of this has to be even cooked. You can eat this. This is what comes out of the Garden of Eden.
Let me ask you this. If someone's new to this life, what can they expect as far as the difference in taste?
Well, first of all, it's not going to taste like the junk you eat.
Exactly.
That don't even have that as an expectation.
And look like it neither.
Oh, and look like it, and it's not supposed to.
Right.
And we can't give you lookalikes, and we can't give you taste-alikes. Now, there are some things in the so-called vegan world that are processed, like you see with some of these burgers and all this other stuff that are processed, but it's still not as good as this. Yeah. And when we ate more of these, and if you add peas, beans, and other legumes, nuts, and things of that nature, you'll get what you need. Now you say, well, what else can we eat? Well, I mean, when you're eating animal-based flesh, it's either pork, chicken, fish. What else is there?
Right.
I mean, it ain't like, or beef. I mean, that's it. You got 4 things.
Well,
here you got.
I don't know what a squirrel counts as, but I know somebody down there.
A squirrel
or a rabbit.
Right.
Possum.
That's red meat.
Right. But still, and I know that, but over all the years that we've got conditioned with different sugars and additives and things, that we know that the food that we consume doesn't taste like what it would naturally coming out.
That's right, and it never will.
Yeah.
And actually, once your palate actually changes and you begin to eat this more on a regular basis, it'll be what you'll desire. And we can learn how to cook this, how basically most of this is steamed or boiled or in some way or fashion. And the thing is, you don't cook it to death.
Right.
You see how this is up. Where's something with the leaves? Oh, let me just take one. If you see this leaf, see how that stands up.
Yes. Sir.
Now, when you cook till it's all broke down, right. You've destroyed a lot of the nutrients. The beautiful thing about this is that if you wish, you can eat it just like this, with other things just like this. You know what we call that? What? A salad.
Yes, without drowning it in a dressing.
Without drowning it in dressing. But all of these things can go into salads. I go in the different places, and depending on what they have, you can put all of these things, even the corn. And you don't even need to cook the corn. The beautiful thing is you don't have to cook any of this. Now, we are traditionally trained to do that, and that's fine. I'd rather you eat this cooked than some of that other stuff that we're talking about. And I'm not anti those things. Right. I'm just pro-health. These things, this will help reverse your diabetes. This will help reverse your heart disease. This will help reverse the blood vessel problems that you have in your neck and in your leg. And more importantly, if you eat it, it'll help prevent that from ever happening.
That is great. Brother Anthony, let me ask you this. I know that, you know, with the distribution that happens on the weekends, you've affected a lot of people. Talk about some of the testimonies of things that you've heard from some of the people who have received and started eating the food that you produce.
Well, the best testimony, it doesn't come from generally the people who just joined, because they really have a hard time grasping the concept of it. But once, like I said, if you could just get this into your body for 30 days. So we had one lady, I guess she had a colon cancer, and they had cut a lot of her digestive system out. So she was eating other things that would go through the digestive system and cause havoc. So when she eat this, you know, because the lack of anything that's on it and the naturalness of it, it digests easier. So even though a half of her digestive system almost cut off, she was able to eat this food and was feeling much better. And then that's just one testimony. Then there's also my wife. You know, she was able to start eating this food. She had a cancer diagnosis, and she's able to minimize the treatments that she possibly had to have.
Right.
She would have had to have chemo and radiation, but she was able to change her diet and start exercising. And what else was paramount, getting out, getting some sunlight and fresh air, you know. And so she's been cancer free for about 4 years.
Yes,
and she didn't have to take any of those other things that would have been really debilitating to her. So.
Okay, beautiful. With that, I want to, on that note, I want to take a quick break, brothers and sisters, and we're going to come back on the other side and with more interesting conversation. We'll be right back.
Compost that come from the waste that we have from the CSA, and so we put that out here and turn all this over, and this would be where we'll put the watermelons next year, because the watermelons are a high nutrient fruit or vegetable, whichever you want to call it, and it needs a lot of, so if you went back to where the watermelon patch was next year, you probably wouldn't be successful. You got to move that patch almost every year, especially when you're growing organically.
Right.
If we was growing conventionally, then it would be different.
We just put chemicals in there, right?
Yeah, and I'm not knocking conventional, it has its place, but this is our niche. It's a vision of our pastor, Pastor January, part of the holistic vision of the campus. The farm started in 2012 as a community garden, and people like the vegetables, so we decided to try to turn it into the CSA. Pretty much everything that grows in this region, we grow corn, collard greens, mustard greens, 3 different types of kale, bell pepper, Swiss chard, and we're trying to expand on that, you know, different varieties. What we want to do at the end of the year, we want to take a survey from the customers that we have this year and see what other things they would like. And in the future, I think we would like to get into growing berries, blueberries, blackberries maybe, you know, and just keep the variety good. And whatever grows in this region where it's not too much of a problem to grow, you know, that's what we would like to kind of stick to. Some things are harder to grow than others, but we do pretty good with everything. Leaf got a lot of nutrients in it too.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so we're gonna pull these.
so yeah, so if you want to, you can just pull around here. And like, you don't want to get too deep in here because it's a lot of insects and stuff. So you could just kind of just pull around here just to get a little feel for it.
Are you a member of the church?
No.
Did you know anything about gardening before?
No, this is
No?
my first year. I was learning every day as I go, being around Tony every day, teaching me everything, and I was just like a sponge to him. So I was just soaking up everything that he was giving me and just putting it onto the land. And then when I started seeing things grow, it started motivating me more and more to even do it, you know. They almost like my kids in a way, you know. I take care of them, I come out here, maintain them. Something act up, I mean, I feel it, you know. So, I mean, I just love what I do, and I know what it's going to do for other people that's coming to get the food.
We have a great volunteer staff, and most of them are women. People come out and pick up food twice a month. So they get here around 7:30 or 8 and weight the vegetables up and put them in the proper proportion and package them up for pickup. Pickup generally happens between 11 and 1 o'clock. We don't wash.
You don't wash? Okay.
Because if we start washing, then that's a whole different process
Okay.
from a CSA, and then you have to get a certified distribution kitchen. What we do, we just pull, package, and rinse. And I don't think a lot of people realize you getting something that's been pulled and get it in your body in 2 days of it being pulled, that's really at the peak of nutrition.
I understand that you had made a garden for your wife. It was like a healing garden, or?
Yeah, about, I think 4 years ago, she was diagnosed with cancer. So it was in a real early stage. So I thought maybe, with a change of diet, more exercise and fresh air. So I would bring her out here in the evening once we were done with the work that we had already done, and she would come out, exercise and walk, and do breathing exercises. And I had started a garden for her, and I put a broad color spectrum.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We are back, continuing our conversation, discussing health and nutrition in Mother Carr's farm. You saw that footage from a tour of the farm, brother. And, being out there, as I said, it's also peaceful. Mm-hmm. It's very peaceful and tranquil just walking out there, but it is, like you said, it's hard work.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the benefits of the land, because 30 days, like you said, get to see you, that's not a long time when you think about it. And so the return on investment is excellent. And so when you're giving those tours and educating and things like that, brother, how often do you reflect and ponder about how long you've come? I know that you've had the farm for 9 years. The benefit on a personal level that it's had for your wife and the things that you've done, but this has really changed your life.
Yes, and we have to look at this in 3 ways, because it's an environmental impact too. So when you're growing food locally, it doesn't travel that far, so that's lower impact on it. And then and then being able to support a local economy in your community. That's the second point. And the third point is that it's a high nutrition, food. And so I like to look at it like designer clothes. People will go, they'll pay, premium money for premium clothes. So you're gonna pay $500 for Louis Vuitton to look better, but you won't pay any more extra money for your food. So, right. And so you're not gonna be able to enjoy any wealth without good health.
Well said. We have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum.
I'm really enjoying the show. I'm a huge follower. Obviously, I love Dr. Mason. Make sure I say the greetings. But I'm a huge follower of the farm. Every time he goes live, I'll be that 1 or 2 people watching, because I'm always interested. And I see him. I see sometimes the earth is cracked and the difficulties that farming has. But I want to make a comment. I was a part of a group. I graduated from Windy City Harvest. It was a part of the Botanic Garden. And they had a program that was connected to the county jail that had these young brothers doing farming. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but that program ceased. And this is a way for our young men who are out here doing things that are not very positive. This is a way for them to get themselves back into the workforce, because farming is not easy. This is actual work. And a lot of people, as we have seen during the pandemic, a lot of farms were closing because they did not have the staff. So I want him, if he could, talk about some of the challenges he has with farming. How's the water supply? I know it rained real hard. I thought that was a good thing, and he was saying that it was a little detrimental to some of the stuff too, as I was watching his live. So I love his program. Great show. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, we lost about 30% of our crops earlier due to the rain. We used to almost lose our watermelons almost every year. So, I had a brother named Karen Hope. He's from Alabama. So we started building up the soil. So we put them up a little higher. So we was able to alleviate that problem. But this global warming is real. We thought we was out of the potential of having any flooding, and then these extreme rains came in June, and then we had a lot of frost in May. So we put a lot of things out. We had heirloom peppers and tomatoes that somebody had given us, and some of these tomatoes, they was from all the way back in Egypt. And so we was looking forward to having that, and that early frost came through and got them. So there's just a lot of different battles that goes on, to keep this thing going, and just trying to get people to change their attitude on where their money should go. Voting is fine, but the strongest vote that you can do is with your money. People will really understand, and you can make a lot of things come to pass by spending your money the right way. If you go out, yesterday, and you go across the street from the Burberry store, I forgot the restaurant that's over there, and we'd be all down there spending our money, and we're out here, asking for $250, $275 for a whole season of food, whereas you take 2 or 3 people down there, you're gonna spend that in one day. Yeah. And so sometimes we can't really see, what we should be doing in our community, and this supports the community, and it's also a better nutritional meal, and that's just one time. So it's still all right to go downtown and support those businesses, but take care of home first.
Yes, sir. Let's go to the line. Caller, you're in the air. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Hey, good morning. How are you all? Salam alaikum.
You
know what? I was trying to listen, but I missed the opportunity. How can we support? I drive by the New Vernon Park Church frequently, but I don't know how to get involved. Can somebody please provide me the information?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sister Tony, for your comment. Go ahead, brother. Tell them how they can go to the website and find out more information.
Yes, we have a website that's connected to the church website, wvpcog.org, and also we got Dr. Mason's website. Anything that you need to see about the farm is on there. Can you give me your website?
Sure, my website, and it'll tell you there's a link right there. But you go to Terry Mason, www.terrymasonmd.org. That's www. Make sure you put the www because it won't work if you don't. So www.terrymason, TerryMason, MD.org.
And that's important because there are opportunities to support the farm, and so we encourage you all to go online to those websites and find out more information on that. And Dr. Mason, one of the things we know that these healthy foods help build up our immunity system, along with other practices. And so right now I know there's a lot of conversation about the latest variant, the COVID-19, and the whole vaccine debate. But talk about, if you will, the importance of a strong immunity system, and then at a high level, certain about the vaccine. I know you had something on one of your previous shows about that.
Sure. Thank you very much for that question. Let me just say that when they go to my website, you'll see the Mother Carr's farm, and when you click that, it'll tell you how to do that. It'll tell you where to go, how to get to because you can do the whole thing online. But thank you for that great question in terms of. I'm just trying to think where to start in terms of talking about that, because there's just so much. There's just so much, and we are people that we truly perish for the lack of knowledge, but we also perish from the lack of application of the knowledge we get. So as it relates to the vaccine, like I said this morning, I had one of the principal investigators for the Moderna vaccine on the show, and we talked a lot about these things. And people, when somebody doesn't want to do something, it really doesn't matter what you tell them. They're not going to do it. And we have a lot of people for various and sundry reasons that are out there that have chosen not to take the vaccine. A position I don't support. I do not support people not taking this vaccine. Let me tell you why. Right now, 96% of the people who are dying from COVID are unvaccinated people.
Okay.
96%. And that says that this vaccine, and vaccines are not new. And if you have children that are here in the city of Chicago, what have you, most of them have had 11 or 12 vaccines by the time they're in school. So, and vaccines are not, even the vaccine itself is not something that created in this culture. It was done by us. We learned how to be able to, by breaking some of the poxes and putting some of that in on people who didn't have that, would help our bodies to develop an immune system so they wouldn't get this pox. Orsinius, I have to look up the brother's name, but he was the one who actually that did that. And actually it was a woman who developed the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, a sister. So what we have to do, not that we should take it if it was or was not a black person, but this is the only thing we have. And we know that people who have already tons of inflammation, our diets, the processed foods that we're eating are causing lots of inflammation. That inflammation, when you get infected with the coronavirus, it's as though someone has thrown gasoline on this inflammation. And now you got a raging fire. And that's what the coronavirus does. It creates this raging fire of reaction in your body that you don't have any way to fight.
Well, let's I want to come back to that, but I want to get this caller in because we'll have a few minutes left, and then we'll come in. Caller, you're in there. Go ahead with the question.
Wonderful guest, brother, on your show. I was wondering, do you brothers do any reach out to some of these black restaurants, like these soul food restaurants, the vegan restaurants, the jerk chicken restaurants? Because it would seem like they sell a lot of veggies and stuff. Can you reach out to those? At least we'll know where we're getting the veggies from. I'd like to hear that.
Yes, we have been working with Man Johnny's, and then probably later this season we'll probably have some produce that we'll be able to get down there. But the thing about it is, right now we're really on the foundation part. Is we got to build this thing up to where we can be able to consistently give these people the food that they need. So if I'm able, and to be honest with you, we're not there yet. We can give him something seasonally, and so that's the reason why, we're asking for the support. The donations are very important. Sometimes you have people that's not in the viewing area and they still would like to support, because there's people out here that's looking for places where they can put their money and they know that it's going to be put to good use. And this is one of these programs. And so we're trying to build up to that. But yes, we have had some relationship with restaurants. Man Johnny's has been one. And then a restaurant in Chicago Heights, Java Sip, they use our product from time to time. But we're trying to get there so we can have a consistent stream of food for them. And we can't go in here like 1 week they get used. It's like McDonald's, they only have one certain type of potato that they use, and they want that potato all the time. Yes,
right. Dr. Mason, one of the things I want to do, and we'll probably direct people, let them know how they can find out more about what you're doing, but to maybe have another discussion on the vaccines, because I think it's an important topic.
Absolutely.
And what it comes down to, a lot of people, whether it's not FDA approved, or it's that the lack of real dialogue about it. It seems like in the media, the pendulum swarms like, take it. But there are questions out here. And of course, there's a lack of trust. And as we should question everything, but I understand the urgency behind this. But you're someone who's close to this, a subject matter expert. And so hopefully we can come back on to direct people to have a real conversation.
Absolutely.
To get those things answered. And as we wind down in the last minute, give your website again so people can know where to find you, brother.
www.terrymasonmd.org.
Okay. And where's Mother Carr's farm located, brother?
1975 Joel Road, Linwood, Illinois, zip code 60425.
everything. All right.
604.
And they can go to the vpcog.org website and go to the farm, get the information, see, and if they choose to participate, the way to do that is there.
Also, they can call too, 708-753-1975.
All right. Brothers and sisters, I hope you enjoyed this afternoon's broadcast. Thank you so much for viewing. I'm your host, Jamil Muhammad. Thank you again. Leaving you with the greetings of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.